Yeah, we're back. We want to let you know some more of the story about how my children ended up with Border Patrol. And where did my other children go? My other two children were placed with a Vermont State Police trooper detective for the Vermont State Police. Why didn't my children go to family? I have family. Why were my kids even taken from me is my question. Why is it that I fought the fight and I proved my innocence, but because I suffered from broken heart syndrome, within a year's time, I ended up with a complete block. It's considered broken heart syndrome and ended up with a pacemaker. But due to the fact that I continued to fight, I proved my innocence. I never in my life abandoned anything. Not my children, not my pets. I only had to flee from my home for safety because people like this and the current situation that I go through today, here I am. I'm telling it all over again. Why? Because I want to know why there's all this stuff happening and nobody's believing. I have the paperwork. I have the paperwork that the court told me burned in a closed case fireproof vault in a one-room courthouse in Guilford, Essex County, Vermont. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's what they told me, okay? But it ends up being that the files never burned. It was a way to try to deter me from being able to get the files. Because why? I, again, have audio recorded conversation, and I have in writing about the fact, and I have witnesses that overheard the conversation with the court clerk, Angel, who stuttered on her words when she had to tell me that she thought that 2 out of 3 of the cases to my children went up in smoke in a closed case fireproof vault. And again, the fire chief from Lancaster, New Hampshire can't even explain it, but he told me I was on to something when I asked him about it. And the judge tried to deter me from getting the records, but the correct judge finally got a hold of my paperwork and he granted me the records. And then Vincent Aluzzi and the Attorney General, T.J. Donovan, who is currently the Attorney General, tried to hide, hinder, and abate me from being able to get the paperwork. However, my daughter, being the victim, said, "Merry Christmas, Mom," and she went and got her case file that has all the paperwork. And they told me at that courthouse, Angel told me the 2 out of 3 cases were Kiana and Savannah, and I said, that's okay, give me Brianna's. So God as my witness and Jesus as my brother, we travel together. We watch out for each other. And there's definitely somebody watching out for me, like my grandmother, my lovely grandmother, Mary Burr. Don't you know my grandmother was a noble healer witch? She married Governor Prince as his 4th and last wife before he passed away in Carver, Massachusetts. And he's buried there with the Pilgrims. Her first widow was my grandpa, who was the son of the heiress of the castle in Norfolk, England, Morningthorpe Manor. The king granted my grandpa the land to bring my grandma to the new America. And that's when my grandpa Joseph married Elizabeth Mayo, who is the Reverend John Mayo's daughter, who is also Queen Elizabeth II's grandfather. Does that give you some kind of inclination as to who we are? And why do you hate on me? You don't hate me. You're jealous of me. There's nothing to be jealous of when you're continuously in a battle for your family. You see, it's not a free ride out here. And it's not a fun ride. It has not been very grateful, free America. I have not had any freedom to have my family, to raise my family, to be a person, to do any of that. Because it all started right here in Barnstable County, Massachusetts on July 19th of 2007 when Falmouth Police Department said that they had to do what the order said. Well, wait a minute, they should have gone to their superior, don't you think? But instead, they put in a report. This officer, who is now fired from Falmouth Police Department, put in his report that I was drinking. when I showed up to find out what was going on. Well, that's a lie, because I don't drink. And if I had been drinking, I wouldn't have been driving. But I had just come from a funeral when Falmouth police officers, accompanied by a DCF female worker, didn't even want to talk to me, had lied to me and told me they were going to wait for me. But obviously, because it was an organized illegal kidnapping, conspired crime, false and fictitious reports, I have reports right here with me that prove to you, and I'm going to prove everything in one sitting. I'm just going to show you all the documents that go with this documentary of the true story of what happened to me, Bree, Kiana, and Savannah. And now it's happening all over again with my grandson and my daughter and myself. It's a repeat of history, because I came forward and I filed lawsuits in the state of Vermont against the perpetrators. Two of the biggest perpetrators living right here in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Borderline patrol agent retired from Island Pond, Vermont. Jeffrey Hare lives in Plymouth, Massachusetts with his wife, Mary Hare, who was the IEP teacher who lured and groomed my daughter. I have the paperwork right here. I can't tell you enough times, but I'm going to show you time and time again in the next session the paperwork that proves DCF founded Jeffrey Hare to have abused my daughter twice. My daughter had to have a pregnancy test weeks before she turned 15 years old, and she was in the care of Jeffrey Hare and Mary Hare of Plymouth, Massachusetts, ex-Border Patrol, not ex, but retired from. Why are these people in control of our families and our children and our communities? You see, had I done anything to lose the rights to my children, it would have been done before it even happened. It would have been corrected. You see, because like I said before, there's 5 agencies and Jeffrey Hare was the supervisor. So when it comes all together, TJ Donovan oversees the police. The Department of Justice is overseeing the state of Vermont. So when I filed the lawsuits, they got frivolously dismissed, and I was called the frivolous plaintiff. And then what happened? My children are still being antagonized, harassed, terrorized, and so am I. So stay tuned, because I've got more to tell you about what happened to my children and what's still happening now. Because why did my children get pleased with Border Patrol, the teacher who lured and groomed, and then a detective and his wife? Okay? Nobody could ever account for me being a bad parent, and nobody could ever account for the fact that I had supposedly abandoned my children. However, due to the fact that the judges, the attorneys, and everybody involved, including your voted in and elected officials, it's not just me it happened to, many others. It's time that we come together, gather our senses, learn your rights, and approach the federal court right here, right now, in Boston, Massachusetts, and then we can file for a what? Change of venue conflict of interest, because they are all a major conflict of interest due to the fact that the ones that have taken our children have abused their power, and you can't fight a state court at a state level. So with that being said, here we are to advise you of all. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned, because I've got much more information that's going to come up, and I'm going to share with you some answers to the questions that you're all asking me right now. I see it on my messenger, and thank you all for paying attention. Yes, my 3 children were taken, terminated, and I did try to appeal it, and that attorney himself refused. I never even spoke to him about it. I never even got any information on it, and it should have been appealed. It should have never happened right from the beginning, but I should have known then to be able to take it to a higher level, which is the federal level. Again, thank you, and we'll talk again soon.